Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the second half of Kenneth Young Center's presentation on compassion fatigue. Today, we'll discuss constructive ways to manage symptoms related to compassion fatigue. Your presenters will again be myself, Taisha Trina, pronouns she, her, hers, and my counterpart, Andrea Vargas, pronouns she, her, hers as well. As community navigators, we focus on minimizing behavioral issues by getting to the root problem through mentoring, tutoring, and providing referrals for needed resources for an individual student and/or their family. In addition, we host a monthly parent support group where parents with common life situations, experiences, and challenges can meet together to help themselves by helping each other through emotional support and sharing of information, strategies, and additional resources they may need. To review, Kenneth Young Center's mission is to partner with communities to support people of all ages navigate life's challenges through personalized prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery. We provide older adult services that promote resources to the older adult population that encourages independency as long as possible. We also offer mental health services for all ages that is geared to an individual's need. Next, we have an LGBTQ+ center that serves as a safe space for youth and allies to learn about self-expression and identity, while building strong interpersonal connections with other LGBTQ+ youth ages 11 to 17 and young adults ages 18 to 24. Lastly, we provide community collaborations that focus on prevention and recovery support services. The objectives for today are as follows. 1, discuss healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms when experiencing compassion fatigue. 2, learn exercises to practice self-compassion. And 3, learn how to set boundaries to attain a healthy work and life balance. Therefore, before we get started, we ask that you preemptively grab a pen and paper to take part in a few interactive exercises during this training. We will also have a few commercial breaks like the first presentation, so please enjoy the first one now.
Hi, I'm Henry Valero, Community Navigator at the Kenneth Young Center. I work with students of District 62 who have been identified by their social workers as needing additional support. Community Navigators assist students by providing mentoring, building life skills, tutoring, and linking them to the LGBTQ+, recovery, and housing services as needed. I've had the opportunity to work with many families this year, but one of the most memorable experiences was when I worked with a particular student who had a lot of issues with controlling his anger and expressing his emotions. After having mentored this student for only a couple weeks, I brought the student to a KYC movie day event and noticed a great change in him. He showed great sportsmanship, respectfulness, patience with younger students, and the ability to have a heart-to-heart conversation with them on the ride home. As an organization, the Kenneth Young Center was able to assist the student to regulate their emotions, control their anger, and assist them with their social skills. Being a community navigator isn't always easy, but it's made a lot easier when you get the opportunity to impact the life of the youth. We look forward to serving the youth and the families of District 62.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the commercial break. Let us review some key concepts from our first presentation, starting with compassion satisfaction. Compassion satisfaction is the pleasure and gratification that comes from helping others. For those of us in helping professions, it's coming home at the end of the day and feeling fulfillment regarding the work we execute. Next, we have compassion fatigue, which is the emotional and physical exhaustion that leads to a diminished ability to empathize or feel compassion for others. This can happen when people in helping professions, like school staff, are unable to refuel or rejuvenate for an extended period of time. A few common signs and symptoms of compassion fatigue are loss of sleep, increased intensity of emotions, change in behavior, and much more. You may experience one or more of these symptoms that may come on gradually or even suddenly to the point where family or friends may notice changes before you do. Finally, we talked about compassion fatigue prevention. To review the ABCs, let's start with A, which stands for awareness. Here, we want to focus on what causes us to be stressed, and then what our body's response is to that stress. Higher levels of stress can increase your vulnerability to compassion fatigue, so it's important to recognize and be mindful of when you're overwhelmed. Next, we have B, which stands for balance. Here, we want to focus on what brings us back to our center when we become overwhelmed, what brings us joy, and what makes us laugh. It's important to take time for hobbies and passions that we love, but it's also important to incorporate quiet time and find tranquility. Third, we have C, which stands for connections. It's important to maintain a healthy support system within the workplace as well as in our personal lives. Schedule time to converse with people you care about. This small, simple action could lead to improving your overall well-being. At the end of the first presentation for compassion fatigue, we ask that you take a self-assessment to see where you are on the compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue continuum. Compassion for others can affect everyone in positive and negative ways. The Professional Quality of Life Scale assessment is based on score levels related to compassion satisfaction, burnout, and secondary trauma. To review the results, let's go one by one, starting with compassion satisfaction. If you're on the higher range, you derive from a great deal of professional satisfaction from the work you do. If you're on the lower range, you may have problems with your job or find satisfaction from certain aspects of your life that take place outside the work environment. Next, we have burnout. If you had scored low in this category, this reflects positive feelings regarding your ability to be effective in your workplace. On the other hand, if you scored high, you may want to give thought to what at work is keeping you from performing your daily tasks. Last, we have secondary trauma. If you scored high, you may need to think about what's triggering you to internalize situations at work and relating them to your personal life. All in all, remember that burnout plus secondary trauma equals compassion fatigue. If you have high levels of burnout and high levels of secondary trauma, we encourage constructive conversations to your supervisor regarding how you're personally feeling. If not a supervisor, be mindful and reach out to a trusted coworker or even a healthcare professional. If you, someone you work with, or someone you care about is experiencing compassion fatigue, there are certain actions we want to incorporate in our daily lives, and there are certain actions we want to avoid. Let's start with the do's. 1, like we mentioned before, seek a social support group. This is important to do at work as well as at home. This may look like a coworker, a family member, or a friend that helps us ease our concerns and also gets us more excited about the things that we truly enjoy. 2, it's important to schedule time for self-care. This is going to look different for every single person, but some examples can be exercise, reading a book, or taking a calming bath. 3, understand that it's okay and normal for people in helping professions to experience compassion fatigue. 4, have at least one intentional and focused conversation each day. We're all busy and probably constantly have things on our minds, but it's important to just slow down and be present. 5, move your body every single day. This doesn't need to be vigorous or even strenuous, but it is important that we keep pushing ourselves to strive to do better. 6, a routine that promotes a healthy sleep pattern. Try to be mindful of your stress triggers in the hours before you want to fall asleep. And last but not least is setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries is something that we will go further in depth with a little further on in this presentation. Moving forward, now that we covered material promoting healthy behaviors to combat compassion fatigue, let's now turn to the don'ts, or behaviors that we want to steer away from. 1, blaming others. Even though you feel others may contribute to your stress that you're experiencing, it's never okay to put blame on someone. 2, minimize big changes at work and at home. When experiencing compassion fatigue, you may not be thinking clearly or even rationally, so it probably wouldn't be the best time to make decisions that will have a significant impact. 3, restrain from complaining to coworkers on a frequent basis. We all know that it feels good to rant, but it can also contribute to an increased negativity in a setting that is already stressful. Therefore, try to focus on more positive conversations that enhance enjoyable aspects of the job. 4, try to maintain consistent workloads and consistent work hours. Sometimes we think these feelings are because we aren't doing enough, when in fact that's not the case at all. Thus, as much effort as you put into your careers, it's equally important to put the same effort, if not more, towards making time for yourself. 5, never neglect your own needs. Once again, we can't stress enough how important it is to take time for yourself. 6, avoid a quick fix. Recovering from compassion fatigue takes time, and most importantly, it takes personal relaxation. Last, one should steer away from self-medicating. If you have feelings towards self-medicating, please be mindful and seek additional help from a medical professional. This can be a PCP, a therapist, social worker, psychologist, or any other licensed professional.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I am one of the Kennedy Center's school mobile therapists on the D62 clinical team. A typical day in the life of a school mobile therapist changes on a day-to-day basis. My team and I all have designated days to operate our crisis phone, where we are on call from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Other days, we have individual, group, and family therapy sessions. We serve all D62 students and their families both during school and after school hours. We are able to meet with our students at all D62 schools, the Des Plaines Public Library, KYC offices, their homes, and over Zoom. We bring our own resources, supplies, and games to every session. We communicate with our client's school social worker to best help support our client. We connect with their parents and caregivers by providing them additional resources and psychoeducation when needed. I have enjoyed being part of the KYC D62 grant. KYC D62 and all social workers have been very supportive and welcoming. We are very excited to continue to work with all D62 clients and their families. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning back in after the commercial break. We will now move on to talk about self-care. Self-care and self-compassion are important tools to help us be resilient in the face of compassion fatigue. Self-care is the act of doing things to take care of our minds, bodies, and souls by engaging in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress levels. Some examples include cooking or baking, exercising, getting a massage, taking a walk outside. You can listen to music or a podcast, reading a book or a magazine, creating something new, playing a game, or just simply taking a few deep breaths. The key to self-care is finding something that you enjoy doing and making time for that. It is literally taking time to take care of you. In the toolkit on the webpage, there's a section specifically on self-care. Take a look at it for ideas. Self-compassion is treating yourself with warmth and understanding in difficult times and recognizing that making mistakes is part of being human. Self-compassion is being kind to yourself. It involves responding in the same supportive and understanding way you would with a good friend when you have a difficult time, fail, or notice something you don't like about yourself. Now we're going to take some time to do a few self-compassion exercises. The first one is called, How Would You Treat a Friend? Perhaps the single best way to provoke compassion for yourself is through this exercise, treating yourself like a friend. It's easy to give our friends love, compassion, and understanding even when they fail or make a mistake. But it can be much harder to extend that same understanding and compassion to ourselves when we make a mistake. Follow these instructions from self-compassion expert Dr. Kristen Neff to start showing yourself more compassion. Okay, so number 1, first think about the times when a close friend feels really bad about themselves or is really struggling in some way. How would you respond to your friend in this situation, especially when you're at your best? So please write down what you typically do, what you say, and note the tone in which you typically talk to your friends. Okay, number 2. Now think about times when you feel bad about yourself or are struggling. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? Please write down what you typically do, what you say, and note the tone in which you talk to yourself. Step number 3. Did you notice a difference? If so, ask yourself why. What factors or fears come into play that lead you to treat yourself and others so differently? Step 4. Please write down how you think things might change if you responded to yourself in the same way you typically respond to a close friend during a time of suffering. Another good exercise to help you improve your understanding and love for yourself is a self-compassion break. It'll only take a few minutes, but it can make a big difference. All right, so let's begin. Bring to mind a situation in your life that is causing you stress or pain. Think about the situation and how it makes you feel, both emotionally and physically. Write down these things if you would like. Now that you have the situation in mind and have thought about the feelings associated with it, say the following things to yourself. This is a moment of suffering. This will activate mindfulness. Other options include, this hurts. This is stress, and simply, ouch. Suffering is a part of life. Saying this helps you realize that you have this in common with all other human beings on the planet. Suffering is an avoidable part of life. You can follow this up by putting your hands over your heart or using whatever soothing self-touch feels right to you. Other options include, other people feel this way, I'm not alone, or we all struggle in our lives. May I be kind to myself. You can use other phrases that may help better in your current situation, such as, may I forgive myself, or may I be patient. Great relief can come from simply affirming that you're experiencing suffering, a difficult part but natural part of life, and stating your intention to be kind, patient, or accepting of yourself. Our next exercise is changing your critical self-talk. This exercise is meant to be practiced over the long term and will require several sessions to be truly impactful on your compassion for yourself. It is vital that you keep up on these 3 steps, but the reward for doing so will be well worth it the time you spent. There are 3 steps to this exercise that you will repeat several times. Step 1. All you need to do is notice when you are being critical of yourself and take note of the words, tone, phrases, etc. you use with yourself. It's really easy to be critical of oneself, but it's harder to notice all of these factors. You will likely have trouble in noticing these things the first or second time you try, but don't give up. It does get easier the more you practice it. The goal of this step is to simply get a sense of how you talk to yourself when you're criticizing yourself or being negative about yourself. It is not only practically challenging to get a sense of how you talk to yourself, it can also be emotionally challenging to confront the reality of how you talk to yourself. It might bring up a lot of difficult or intense emotions, but remember that the next 2 steps are meant to help you become more positive about yourself. You will get there. So step 2, you begin to challenge the negative self-talk. Begin to quote-unquote talk back to the critical voice in your head. Don't take on the same critical tone with this voice in your head. Although you may want to be nasty to this voice, that will just encourage self-judgment instead of self-compassion. Tell this voice that you understand that the voice is nervous, anxious, or worried about getting hurt, but that it is causing you unnecessary pain. Ask the critical voice to allow your compassionate self to speak for a few moments. And step 3. Finally work on reframing the observations made by the critical voice. Put them in a more positive perspective, perhaps with the help of the quote-unquote unconditionally compassionate friend. Instead of allowing the critical voice to berate you for a choice you made, put on your self-compassionate or compassionate friend hat and view the situation with the focus on the positive. So for instance, if you feel horrible for something mean you said to a friend, don't allow your critical voice to have full control in your mind. Let your compassionate self take over and say something like, I know you made a mean comment to your friend and that you feel bad about it. You thought it might feel good to get it off your chest, but you just feel worse after. I want you to be happy, so please think about calling your friend and apologizing. It will feel good to make up with them. You can even pair this positive self-talk with loving physical gestures like stroking your arm or giving yourself a hug. However you do it, engaging in this kind of positive self-talk will help you to start being more kind to yourself, which will eventually lead to genuine feelings of warmth and love for yourself. So thank you for engaging in these self-compassion exercises. Please use them as much as you need to take care of yourself. And now, enjoy your final commercial break.
Hi, I am Mario Nunez, Project Associate for Kenneth Young Center's Teen Reach After School program at District 62. We offer extracurricular programming to middle school students who are recommended by their school counselors. Our goals are to improve education performance, promote and develop healthy life skills, and overall present positive adult mentorship. Our program involves fun and interactive STEM activities, team building recreational activities, and informative social emotional learning. This program has provided great benefits to students coming back from remote learning, and has created a great path for students to love the school environment. If you know any District 62 students who would benefit from this program, please talk to Ben Keel at Algonquin Middle School, Joanna Krause at Iroquois Community School, and Kristen Krupinski at Chippewa Middle School. Thank you for listening about our Teen Reach program.
So another way to help us prevent compassion fatigue and to deal with it if we already experience it is to set and stick with healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries encourage us to have dedicated time for work and also dedicate time to refuel and recharge. There are physical boundaries like stopping work when you leave the office or intentionally listening to music on your way home and making that transition between work and non-work. There are also emotional boundaries, like separating your feelings from the feelings of others. There are a few steps to setting healthy boundaries. First, you have to understand your worth and values. If we never feel as though we're enough, we can throw ourselves into our work to try and gain enoughness from our output. But in doing so, we tend to head towards burnout. We're more likely to say yes to what's asked of us, even when we'd rather say no. We're all brimming with value, even when we can't see it. Our experiences, skill sets, expertise, energy, and insights and perspectives have a unique value that only we can offer. Understanding our worth and value means that we have an awareness and appreciation of our achievements and what we can offer. It also underlines how and when we communicate, what we might be willing to do for recognition or not, what we're motivated by, and how likely we are to speak up when our boundaries have been violated. When we value ourselves, our time, energy, skills, and expertise, we become a bit more particular about what we take on and what we don't. Take the next 30 seconds and write down all of the things that bring joy to your job. What skill sets and experience do you have? What are the things that you are really good at? Next, take another 30 seconds and write down values that you live by. This is hard in a short time, but it can get you starting to think about it. The second step is setting boundaries is be clear and concise. Don't apologize for your boundaries, for what you're willing to do or not willing to do. As long as your boundaries are clear, there is no need to reason or apologize for them. When we communicate honestly and clearly, we're leaving no uncertainty behind our intention and our meaning. It opens the door for other people to do the same and means that they're not stuck trying to interpret what has just been said. It's okay to assert our boundaries. It's okay to change our minds. It's okay to share a perspective on a situation. And it's okay to be assertive and to the point. The third step is to manage expectations and ask for clarity. We start work armed with a job description and a contract of employment or a baseline set of mutual expectations. In return for doing this and that, we can expect to be compensated in this way and that way. At the get-go, we can decline the job if we disagree with anything laid out in those baseline documents, or we can negotiate. As time progresses, we'll probably be asked to do other tasks and projects, and we might ask for a workplace adjustments. The baseline evolves, which is fine as long as the expectations remain clear, realistic, and mutually agreed upon, but so often they're not. Take the next minute and write down everything you know you are expected to do in your current job. And off to the side, write down things that you do that are over and above. The COVID-19 pandemic, the systematic racism that has been brought to the forefront, and the declining mental health of youth has definitely added to the list of things that school staff deal with on a daily basis. It is important to acknowledge these things and talk about them in the workplace. When expectations aren't clearly defined, understood, or agreed upon, it causes a lot of stress for all concerned. This is where it becomes super important that expectations be managed, because there are often consequences that arise when expectations aren't met and we feel the threat of those outcomes. If you feel that you are doing too many things outside of what is expected, be sure to talk to your supervisor. The fourth step in creating healthy boundaries is identifying your non-negotiables. Almost every work decision we make involves consequences and compromises. If we're asked to work overtime, there's a trade-off that occurs somewhere else because we can't be in two places at once. If we're not conscious about what the trade-off is, we might not have considered the things we're giving up. It's helpful to have non-negotiable lists pre-written when we have the time and space to weigh up the implications of the choices that we might make where work is concerned. Perhaps one of our non-negotiables will be to consume a certain amount of water per day, which means we need to factor in time in our schedule to have a drink. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But so many of us get our heads down and crash the day only to find we have a headache when we log off, possibly caused by dehydration and not having had a break. Non-negotiables might be that we don't ever want to miss a parent's evening, a school play or activity, or taking care of our kids when they're sick. It could be that we have a book club, a long-standing badminton game, or a support group that we absolutely don't want to miss. Our non-negotiables could be about methods of communication. Perhaps we don't want to be contacted by our colleagues via WhatsApp, text message, or social media because we prefer to use those with our close friends and family. Creating a list of non-negotiables helps us uncover what's important to us, and from them, we can create, communicate, and negotiate boundaries to support and shield our priorities. Make your list of non-negotiables is going to take time. Making your list of non-negotiables is going to take time. You will have the next 60 seconds to start that list, knowing that you will need to come back and finish it when you have more time. Write down anything that you are not willing to compromise. Managing boundaries. Healthy boundaries are an important part of managing burnout and compassion fatigue. After the presentation today, I encourage you to go back through the slideshow and follow these steps to truly create some healthy boundaries that you will be able to maintain. When you have your boundaries, communicate them, first to your supervisor and also to your coworkers as necessary. So we have talked about a lot today, and we hope that you have found this very helpful. We have given you some do's and don'ts when dealing with compassion fatigue. We talked about self-care and self-compassion, and we went through a self-compassion exercises that you can do again and again. Look at those again this week, and there are more that you can access in the toolkit. We discussed setting healthy boundaries. The first step in setting boundaries is thinking about the values you live your life by. Take time today to really think about those. There's a value exercise by Brene Brown in the toolkit. This is helpful in thinking about the values that mean the most to you. After you have determined the values that are most important to you, create your list of work/life healthy boundaries. Share this with your supervisor and coworkers. Don't forget about the toolkit. This is for all of you and can be found on the same webpage that you found the link to this presentation. You can find the self-compassion exercises we did and more. You can also find resources for setting healthy work/life boundaries. And there is so much more. We hope that you find this to be a valuable resource. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions or if you would like more information about a specific topic. You can contact us at Tisha Trina, tishat@kennethyoung.org, Andrea Vargas, Andrea V @kennethyoung.org, Marianne Rodensky, Marianne R @kennethyoung.org. These are the resources used in this presentation. Also, thanks again for attending and have a great week.